Hi, this is Kevin Purcell for Notebooks.com, and in front of me I have the Acer Aspire TimelineX 5820T. There are two models in that line. The 5951 is the one I have here, and it is a 15.6-inch wide Intel Core i3 notebook computer with 4 gigabytes of RAM, a 320 gigabyte hard drive, and Intel bills this one out as an extreme notebook. They've added the X on the end of the Timeline name, and they call it extreme. And I think that, unfortunately, using the word extreme is a little bit extreme when describing this one. It's a good, decent notebook, as Acer is normally considered sort of the low-end line, and this one kind of bucks that trend just a little bit. But let me show it to you. First of all, you have the full keyboard here with a number pad off to the side, which is nice for those who are business users and crunching lots of numbers. My personal preference is to not have one, so I can have the keyboard in the middle, but that's a personal thing. It has a nice big trackpad, which is very sensitive, and I like the trackpad, although I'm not a trackpad fan. Unfortunately, it's got just the one key instead of two dedicated right and left keys, but despite that fact, it works well. As you can see from the screen, it is a glossy screen, and it's a 16 by 9 ratio. It has a 1366 by 768 resolution, which means you can watch 720p HD video on it. It's also a really good screen. It's very bright, and if you notice here, when I turn the notebook to the side, notice the viewing angle. Despite the glossy screen with the overhead light makes it hard to see that reflection from my computer monitor back there, but you can see that it has a very wide viewing angle. So I guess that's one place where the term extreme does seem to fit. Another thing here, on the outside of the notebook, it is an attractive model. You can see that it does show up some of my fingerprints as I've been using it and haven't really cleaned it off before this video. But it does have that brushed aluminum feel to it. Let me show you the sides. Along this side, we'll go with the back first. Along the back here, you can see that there are no ports. These hinges are very strong and sturdy. It's got the battery at the bottom. It has a nice battery with promises up to 8 hours. Under my personal use, it was more like about 6. If you turn the power saving mode way up, you might get 7 hours out of it. The fan here on the side, it runs fairly cool and quiet. Here's your Kensington lock. It's got a standard VGA and HDMI port out, which is good for external display. A gigabit LAN port, which is a little bit better than what a lot of notebooks will give you, although gigabit's becoming standard. USB, this is one of 4. And then here you get the audio jacks with the mic in and the headphone jack. The headphone jack will also double as a SPDIF port. Now you notice on the front here, we have the SD card slot, and notice these lights for power and to show that your Wi-Fi is on. There are no other ports along the front of it, and then like I said, we've got the other 3 of the 4 USB 2.0 slots, the power port here. Now as you notice here, the DVD drive, this is a combo drive, will burn both DVDs and CDs. There's not a single button on it. You say, well, how in the world do you eject it without having to go into Explorer and right click the drive and hit eject? Well, you do it by using the dedicated eject button right here. I'll push that, and it's a little, I don't know what the problem is. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's the, there we go. Finally. Just took a little while. It's a little finicky, but it's an interesting spot to put it. I actually didn't like it at first, but kind of do now. Now this other one here is a program launcher, and you'll be able to see when I hit it here that it will launch the program launcher over here. The computer's a decent system, but my biggest complaints about it, number one, is the keyboard. It's kind of got a mushy keyboard, and it wasn't the best for typing. The indicators to show that you're on the home key there, the F and the J key, are barely there. You can't hardly feel it, so I was often looking down trying to figure out where my hands were on the keys. When I first got, this is actually the second model of this model I got. The first one had the F6 key not working. That's no problem, and every once in a while you're going to get a notebook, and just because I'm reviewing it doesn't mean that I'm going to be immune from that. Sadly, the second one came, and this area of the keyboard was actually raised. I had to push it down into place. It was as if they didn't get it all the way installed there. So that's one complaint, and that's a big one for me. I need a really good keyboard since I do a lot of writing. So if you don't, that may not be an issue, but if you do, honestly, steer clear. If you do a lot of typing on this one, you'll be disappointed. If you don't do a lot of typing, the other pluses, I think, overcome it. The second thing is, you'll notice it says Dolby Home Theater Virtual Surround Sound. Virtual stands for virtually non-existent. You can't hear the speakers in a loud room. And that's a real difficult thing when you're trying to listen in a loud spot or a loud place. That said, it seems like a nice notebook. It is a little bit more expensive. Normally you think of Acer as being a lower end model, not as far as quality but price. But this one's actually a little bit above the average. As I looked around on our laptop finder on notebooks.com, punched in some of the details and specs, and I found a lot of other notebooks for cheaper than this one. The cheapest price I could find on this one was about $680 something. Amazon had it for $722, I think it was, but it was averaging about $725, $740, something like that. I think the retail price is like $750 on it. That was actually about $100 more than what you would expect to pay for a similarly spec'd notebook. So I was kind of surprised about that. That might make it a deal breaker for some. But if you want a computer that's going to do an awful lot, it doesn't compromise in a lot of different areas, except for the keyboard. It is a do-it-all kind of jack-of-all-trades system. Really good for probably viewing multimedia, web surfing, light typing, those kinds of things. Mild gaming, not extreme gaming, not just casual gaming. It's got enough oomph that it would play a few, even though it's got integrated graphics. It is a slow booting machine, but with the battery life, you could just put it to sleep instead of shutting down and restarting all the time. But these are my impressions of it. I think it's a decent system. Because of the typewriter, I don't think I would, or the keyboard rather, I don't think I would go with it. But you might feel differently about that. But this has been Kevin Purcell with the Acer Aspire TimelineX 5820T for Notebooks.com, and I thank you for watching.